Are you sick of Apple purposely making their products worse? Are you frustrated by Apple's insane pricing and the so-called Apple tax? Are you tired of iPhone season every year and Apple intentionally slowing down older iPhones? Well, I am, and I have the answer and explanation to all of these concerns. Apple fans, your time is up. Take your iPods and throw them out the window because I'm about to get super controversial. Not really, but sort of. So we all know Apple, the multi-billion-dollar tech and entertainment company started by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They're responsible for some of the world's most iconic technological devices of all time. The Mac, the iPod, and of course the iPhone. Apple played a huge role in my life, and I'm sure they played a huge role in yours. I remember getting my first iPod, a hand-me-down from my brother, and because I couldn't afford any music, I'd have to give it to my friends and have them download their songs for me. And then of course, I remember saving up enough money to get my very own first generation iPhone. On this device, I made some of my first social media accounts, played Temple Run, and learned the dangers of taking cringe selfies. And you have to admit it, Apple has played a significant role in our society. I assume most of you are watching this video on an Apple product, and if not, know someone who has an iPhone or Mac. When Steve Jobs sold the idea to think different, people bought it. Apple arguably redefined the personal computer. Many people's first smartphone was an iPhone. And since people hold these products close to their hearts, some individuals go all out with their admiration for Apple, even to the point where it's causing dangers to our society as people are turning a blind eye to Apple's issues. And that's what we're talking about today. Now, generally speaking, it's easy to dump on a big corporation like Apple, but I want to take this a step further. I want to explain and uncover what's actually happening here and why. Apple went from being one of the most well-respected brands to a company that many people despise. And disclaimer, Tim Cook, if you are watching this or you are a massive Apple fan, be warned, after this video, you may hate me. And that's okay. I'm an Apple fan and I already hate myself. So let's start with, in my opinion, is the most common issue with Apple making their products worse. From removing the headphone jack on the iPhone, to changing charge ports on devices every couple years, to removing USB ports on Macs and other laptops. Apple has become infamous for this practice. To the average person, these are big problems. Every pair of headphones you ever owned, worthless. All your old chargers, useless. Take for example the removal of standard USB ports on MacBooks a while back. Most devices you plug into a computer use standard USB or USB 3. Your mouse, microphone, headset, all of those use standard USB. Now there are some exceptions, but most use standard 3.0 USB. Since 2015 though, MacBook Pros no longer have that. Instead they have USB-C. If it sounds confusing and dumb, it's because it is. Now supporters of Apple would argue these changes are justifiable for design purposes. Here's an article written supporting these design changes. The author says, USB-C port is a minor inconvenience for many users, but this can be easily solved by investing in a dongle that can help you hook up different external devices. First of all, I don't want to invest in dongles. I don't want to invest in anything that sounds like a failed Frito-Lay product. Secondly, it's not a minor inconvenience. Do you know how much a 3-port dongle is? $60. $60 is not a minor inconvenience. And for full transparency, there are cheaper singular adapter options, but still, I wouldn't classify $20 or $30 as a minor inconvenience. If a switch like this is better for a laptop, okay, fine, so be it. But then Apple should include a dongle with the Mac you purchase. And the charging issue doesn't stop here. Over the last 15 years, Apple has created 4 different charging cables for their iPods, iPhones, and iPads. 4 different ones. That's ridiculous. Now, interestingly, the European Union passed legislation last year that requires all phones and tablets sold in the EU to use the USB-C standard by the end of 2024, which means the next iPhone will have another new type of charger. All your old Apple chargers will be worthless. And this is all on Apple. If Apple would have just used the standard charger, the charger that Samsung users have been using for years, we never would have had to go through all of this. And this is just one dumb charger-related issue Apple has created. Apple stopped including charger boxes with their iPhones back in 2020. The company said this is part of their sustainability efforts to reduce electronic waste and carbon emissions. First of all, sure, that's why Apple. Secondly, how does that make any sense for the consumer? You buy a phone, how are you going to use it without a charger box? You can't. You need a charger and a box. And you would think for the price you pay for a brand new iPhone, it would include all of these things. And I think here is the perfect time to talk about Apple pricing and the Apple tax. Apple tax is a term used to describe the premium Apple charges for its products, making them usually more expensive than products from other tech companies. Generally speaking, if you buy something from Apple, it's expensive. Now, this isn't always a bad thing. I mean, I get it. Premium products exist for a reason. Nike, Gucci, Rolex, Apple. You pay a premium to buy a premium product. The issue is, in my opinion, Apple is no longer a premium brand. Nearly 50% of Americans who have smartphones use iPhones. Is it really premium if it's the standard? Plus, many competitors actually have just as good products, if not better. So if Apple products are no longer premium, why are they priced that way? And is it even worth it? Many would say to some degree, yes, it is worth it, and that Apple products are often better than the alternatives. Macs are efficient, and iPhones are too. Apple critics would say, however, there are plenty of alternatives that rival the brand. But, and what you'll notice is a reoccurring theme with Apple fans, there's always something else. It's not just tech, it's also a status thing. Take, for example, the iPhone and Android debate. Did you know your phone choice could be hampering your love life? It's true. OkCupid, the dating app, polled and asked their users if they would message someone who doesn't have an iPhone. 31% said they wouldn't. That's right, 31% of responders said if your message shows up green, aka you don't have an iPhone, they won't message you. And this issue is extrapolated to our youth. The Wall Street Journal published a big article about this exact issue and surveyed college kids and teens. One said, I've had people with Androids apologize that they have Androids and don't have iMessage. Another person said her friends and younger sister have mocked her for exchanging texts with potential paramours using Android phones. So yeah, your phone choice could be harming your social status. I mean, how dumb is that? And what makes this all even more ridiculous and frustrating is Apple's never-ending upgrade cycle. Please, let's talk about that. Am I the only one who thinks it's ridiculous that Apple releases a new iPhone every year? It's not like these phones have significant upgrades either. I mean, sure, 8 years ago they did, but now most of the upgrades are very minor. If you compare the last 2 years' iPhones, there's only a few tiny differences. A faster GPU and a slightly better camera. Not much else. Why not release a new iPhone every 2 years? If Apple really cared about sustainability efforts to reduce electronic waste and carbon emissions, start there. Years ago, a different story. Like when they made phones waterproof, sweet, or when they truly took the camera from basic to borderline professional. Those are awesome changes and definitely deserve a new wave of phones. But slightly upgrading a GPU, come on, or slightly upgrading the camera, seriously? Most new iPhones already have the ability to shoot in 4K. Apple, listen, why not just create your own brand video camera? The average person doesn't need to shoot on anything higher than 4K, which is why when you select the camera, it defaults not to 4K. You literally have to go into your settings and change it because most people don't care or even know the difference. And Apple practically forces you to upgrade these devices. If you feel like your phone gets slower and slower, it's not a coincidence. Apple deliberately slowed down its old iPhones to get people to upgrade to the latest model. A class action lawsuit was issued because of this, and just this last spring, the suit was finally settled and Apple paid out $500 million. Apple did apologize, but also denied the problem even existed. So are we all safe to assume this problem just went away? I don't know about you, but I don't believe that for a minute. Apple's annual revenue for 2022 was $394.3 billion, and all they had to pay out was $500 million. That's nothing. That's roughly 0.127% of their annual revenue for 1 year. That's barely a slap on the wrist. A company was literally caught making their products worse, so people would have to buy their new ones, and basically nothing happened. So to me, I don't know, I can totally see Apple doing this again. I mean, why wouldn't they? If you're a company with almost $400 billion of revenue every year, and all you have to do is pay a small penalty, Why wouldn't you do this? And again, I don't know how Apple fans can defend this logic. I mean, in what world is this fair? Now, the situation is made even worse with the Apple right to repair issue. If you don't know what that is, Apple has been criticized for making its devices increasingly difficult to repair without using their own authorized repair service. Apple has been known to use special screws, adhesives, and components in their devices, making it challenging for independent repair shops to perform repairs on Apple products. Apple literally made it harder to fix your phone so that you'd need to send it to Apple or buy a new one completely. Now, over the years, Apple launched a self-service repair program, a move that was considered a concession to the right to repair movement. But many argue this system was just a PR stunt and didn't help at all. For example, repair shops need specific tools they need to repair Apple products, and this program wouldn't even provide repair shops an option to purchase these things. Plus, to join the program, they would need to sign an NDA and provide Apple with all their customers' personal information. But simply, everything Apple has done to this point regarding repairs has been anti-consumer. I mean, is this not crazy to you? I don't understand why more people aren't upset about this. Or is it just we as a society have accepted this? Apple purposely making their products worse, the Apple tax, the right to repair issues, and I haven't even touched on the ethical issues. Apple's been accused of using forced labor in China. Apple's been accused of using child labor in Africa. Like, these issues are insane to me. And after all of this, not much is being done. The government doesn't care, Apple doesn't care, and most consumers don't care either. And I don't want to come off hypocritical. I mean, full transparency, I have an iPhone, but to me, I'm not going out of my way to defend Apple's actions like so many people do. People will defend Apple like they've personally vested interest in the company. Plus, even if we as consumers want to support alternatives like Samsung, they've been accused of similar issues. So it's a lose-lose. You have to buy a phone, you have to buy a computer, and in the end, consumers are just getting screwed. And yet people defend these companies. That's what drives me nuts. I think we should be able to have healthy criticism with these massive companies and brands, but also be able to still use their products. I know that's like the most hypocritical thing ever, but truthfully, what other options are there? Like, I made 2 videos being critical of YouTube, and so many people were like, okay, well, stop using YouTube. But that's not the point. I do care. And clearly, I'm not alone. People want things to be better. So then why is all of this happening? Why does Apple suck now? And why do people defend the company? Well, to me, I think it comes down to leadership and Apple's early identity. I fell in love with Apple because of Steve Jobs. Say what you want about him, but I just loved his attitude regarding innovation and creativity. As a business nerd, studying Apple's early commercials and even listening to Steve's commencement speech defined many of my early adult aspects. And this is the problem. So many people are quick to defend Apple because of this grand idea laid out by early Apple leadership. But it's gone. Steve's gone and he's never coming back. So the only way things are going to get better is if Apple's leadership changes. And unfortunately, I don't think it will. Now, I don't like being negative, but honestly, sometimes it's hard not to be. But I did come up with a silver lining if there is one, and that's a reminder. Sometimes we have to remember how much power we actually have today with the technology we own. Apple might suck now, but it got us here. You can leave a YouTube comment on your iPhone. You can send an iMessage to your best friend who lives across the world. You can FaceTime your family if you can't make it back for the holidays, and you can create a video on a MacBook and have millions of people watch it. So yes, Apple has definitely gotten worse over the years, and in my opinion, sucks. But without it, we probably wouldn't be where we are today. So I hope this video shines some light on this situation, and I will see you next time. Now watch me morph into this thank you. Ready?